Sheryl, thank you so much for meeting with me today, and just for sitting down and just talking with me about what it looks like for counseling and for therapy and just for taking care of yourself and for mental health. Can you describe for us, what does your role look like as a clinical mental health therapist?
I think my role is to, first of all, help my clients be comfortable with me. Just starting off with building that rapport, the client-patient rapport, and just having them want to share with me and feel comfortable with sharing with me.
So what are some signs that a person might notice in themselves that might be a sign for maybe I should seek mental health support or seek out a therapist or a counselor or something?
Strong feelings of anxiety that don't go away over a period of time. We all experience anxiety from time to time for many different reasons, but anxiety is probably one of the greatest things I see in my practice. And I think that if we start feeling anxious all of the time and we can't calm ourselves down, then I think we need to seek help and have somebody help us work through that time.
I've noticed that's a big thing that happens and that people face every day as anxiety. So.
And I think the times now with what we've all experienced over the past couple of years with COVID and quarantine and all of that, and I think many people are coming out of that just fine, and there's others who struggle. They've been quarantined, they've been housebound, and all of a sudden they're out facing the world and everything that comes with that, and that can be problematic. And like I say, most people just get through it fine, but there's some people that struggle.
Yeah, and the world is different now than it was 3 years ago.
It really is.
And so, yeah, and I remember during especially when the pandemic was starting, I mean, you almost couldn't get into a therapist anywhere because everybody was just booked because everybody just needed help to process what was going on.
Yes, that was a huge factor too, because people couldn't get the help that they needed. I think there's been a whole lot of change in the way we care for our clients since then, which is probably a good thing, and I think it's helped us maybe reinvent some of the things that we were doing and do it a little bit differently that may be more effective and more helpful for the client.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, yeah, what are can you name like some of those things that you do that might be more effective or helpful for your clients versus things that you learned out of all this?
My approach is a little bit different when dealing with them. For example, I may ask them questions that I might not have asked before, that I feel like I probably need to ask those in order to get the response that I need. And it varies. And then there's some individuals that I definitely wouldn't ask that question, because I think that would maybe trigger some things that we're not ready to discuss right now. And I think, one of the things we're seeing, and some people are triggers, if you mention certain things that go back during that time, it triggers things for them. Almost like PTSD at times. It's because it has been. For some people, it was that. There was this awful, horrendous fear of going out, for fear we're going to get COVID, for fear we're going to be hospitalized, for fear we're going to die. And we were all so careful, and before there were vaccinations and before all of that, everybody was super careful. Things were shut down for a period of time. And so I think that's a factor too.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot recently, just seeing all these events like the Super Bowl and games where there's just like crowds of people and everybody's fine, and it's great that we're like that we can go back to that, but it's just I mean, like, it's kind of caused me to reflect a little bit on like on how odd the normal seems now.
Yes.
In a way.
It does, and I think for many of us, it's still in our mind a little bit, because it's still out there. It's not gone. And what I'm hearing from the professionals is COVID is going to end up being like the flu and like other viruses that we've had in the past. It's always going to be here.
There's this stigma that mental health isn't really a thing that you need to take care of, that we shouldn't talk about it, that everybody's fine, that there's no need to take care of your own mental well-being. But how do you respond to that stigma, or do you think that is a thing, or have you seen that? Or
well, the thing that I used to hear a lot is I'm embarrassed. There must be something wrong with me. I'm a terrible person. I do on and on with all the negatives. And my response was, you're doing the right thing. What you're doing by seeing a therapist and getting help is a positive. It has no negatives to it. And it means you truly are a stronger individual because you have sought out help versus ignoring it and stuffing it and burying it under the rug and pretending it'll go away. Because if you do have mental health issues, they're not going to go away. I mean, we can work on them and we might be able to have better days, better months, better weeks, but if we truly have a serious mental health issue, it won't go away without help. And that help can be a therapist or psychiatrist, whatever they choose to go to, or medications, and some people need both of those. I think we have to let go of that stigma of, well, I'm a bad person, or people are going to think bad things of me, or, because that's not the case at all. And really, if you think about it, how many people pay attention to what we're doing? I mean,
right.
It's kind of like what ifs. I always, there's so many what ifs out there, and I just say, what ifs exactly that? It's a what if, and how many what ifs actually happen?
Yeah.
Very few of them. We get all upset and agitated and worried about, well, what if this and what if that, and they never come to pass.
Yeah.
What ifs don't always happen. They're really, if you could put a number on them, and which you can't, but if you could put a number on them, the percentage of the ones that really happen versus the ones that don't happen would be.
Oh yeah, it's minuscule.
Yeah. So you have to do self-talk. I really encourage self-talk because I think we have to talk to ourselves, and you can do it just mentally, or you can do it to yourself, or you can look in the mirror and do it. And just tell yourself, I'm going to be okay, I'm going to get through this. One of my big things is, I'm okay, I can handle this. And I use this a lot with anxious people. And you say it 3 times. I'm okay, I can handle this. I'm okay, I can handle this. I'm okay, I can handle this. I don't know, there's something strange about the number 3 that it sticks with you. It's almost like your brain then automatically processes that. So, for example, if you start feeling anxious and you say, I'm okay, I can handle this 3 times, the next time you start getting anxious, if you've done that a few times, the next time you start feeling anxious, your brain will automatically kick in and just process it for you. I learned that in school. This goes clear back to when I was in graduate school. And when I first heard it, I just kind of thought, well, that's silly. So I tried it when I was doing my residency, and I tried it with some clients, and it really worked. And I thought, well, okay, this is working. So I carried it through my practice all these years.
Oh, yes.
I've had people who had a fear of flying. And so I said, let's try this. And they did. And they fly all over now. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to work for everybody.
Yeah.
But I think the majority of people will benefit from it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, and I often will share with people that one thing to do that I often pray for even is just peace. And just having that prayer life. It's almost like self-talk, but you're inviting God into the conversation, and that's what prayer is inviting God into a conversation where it's just you and God. That you don't have to say it out loud. You don't have to talk to other people about it, because God knows everything already. But there's just something about kind of thinking through it or saying it out loud, whichever way you prefer. And oftentimes I lean on asking for peace, because peace is kind of the response to worry and anxiety and stress and any any number of situations, grief, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of a Holy Spirit given peace. And so-
I think
and so-
I think prayer is so important.
Mhm.
I can't imagine not having prayer in my life.
Yeah.
I've relied on prayer for so long for so many things, and peace is one of the things that I always ask for. Peace and strength.
Mhm.
I feel like I need strength
Mhm.
sometimes to just get through whatever it might be, and I always ask for that. It's just, and with clients who are receptive, I will use that, but I have to be sure it's something the client's receptive to, because
Yeah.
some people don't want to talk about religion or anything like that. That's just totally out of their realm, and so you just kind of wait and see where they are with it. And sometimes they'll bring it up, and sometimes you can tell that's just not the place to go.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
Yeah.
And then you just hope, well, somewhere down the road, maybe
Oh yeah.
we'll find that.
Yeah, because even AA says find a higher power. They don't name a higher. They don't name
Yes.
one specific one, but they at least say like find that connection.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so yeah. What are some other ways that people can just work on their own mental health now? And now I'm not talking about like anything like diagnosed or that's diagnosable, but everybody experiences stress and anxiety
Yes,
and
yeah.
worry and uncalm and just
Mhm.
any under their emotions.
Well, I think, find something they like to do, that
Mhm.
they really have an interest in, and sometimes that's hard because we don't always know, and sometimes it changes. But I think finding something you enjoy doing, going for a walk, it's
Mhm.
probably one of the best things you can do.
Yes.
Is just get out. It's amazing how much better you'll feel after you go for a walk, and just be out and be in the fresh air and see something different besides what's in your home. And so I think, walking, exercise, for those
Yeah.
who like to exercise, if they don't, I don't ever encourage it, because if you're doing it and you hate it, that's not helping. So, exercise, hobbies,
Mhm.
read a good book, watch a movie.
Mhm.
If you have a close friend that you feel like you're comfortable talking with, just call them. You don't have to talk about the problem. Maybe just a conversation totally away from that problem
Yeah.
is good. There's a ton of things that you can do. Watch a little child.
Mm.
How much fun is that, just watching a child play?
Oh yeah.
They're so innocent, and they're so easily entertained, at least sometimes for a period of time.
Mhm.
They'll just play with things and do interesting things, and their response to what they're watching or what they're doing is really, enlightening, because you just
Yeah.
see that and you think, oh, that's really funny, or that's cool, or whatever. Or talk with kids. Kids are fun to have a conversation with a child.
Oh, yeah.
Just, whatever they want to talk about.
Yeah, their worldview is fascinating
Yeah.
from a kid's perspective.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and we forget what that's like. What
We
that
really
worldview is.
do, yeah. It's really unlimited is what your imagination, what you can come up with that's going to take away some of your anxiety and help you stop thinking about it.
No, that's awesome.
Because the more you think about it, the more anxious you get.
Yes.
And once you've had an anxiety attack, you're probably going to have another one because you're worrying about when it's going to happen.
Yeah. And that's something that they teach now in the schools at all, is to kind of have those plans in place and practices in place of breathing and
Yes.
and activities to do that are calming, that whenever you get to those really stressful and anxious moments,
Yes.
you can just go there naturally without
Yep.
trying to think about what it is.
And you know where that's coming from.
Mhm.
Your brain has been programmed.
Yeah.
Because you've done it, and it's the same. It's the brain, you're programming the positive versus the negative, because the negative's already there,
Yeah.
and the negative is telling you, I'm going to be anxious, this is not going to work, and so then you go with the positive, and I can do this, I'm okay, I can handle this.
One of my kids one time learned in school the rainbow breath when they were young, and I'm pretty sure it was my 3-year-old. And anytime that they're anxious, we just say do a rainbow breath, and they'll go and do that, and it just immediately calms them down. And in fact, I taught one day. I was reading to our preschool here at Monticello, and taught that to all the kids there.
Oh, good.
And the rainbow breath. And then I heard reports like a week later that kids were starting to do that, like whenever they were getting frustrated, and it was helping. I thought that's incredible. Like
I bet they loved it.
Oh yeah. So I need to remind them here next time I go down. But,
kids are so receptive to things. They love new things, and they love to try them.
yeah.
We just need to give them that opportunity to do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, and I think we can learn a lot from kids
Oh.
of that self-care, the things that they take home.
Absolutely.
And even like we're not going to stand in the middle of the street and go, but we might just do a quick breath and just like whenever we feel stressed, just go, and then we can go. And so yeah, absolutely.
That gets the endorphins going, and what do endorphins do? There are happy thoughts.
Yes.
And so that's the breathing helps get those started. So
Is being in good mental health and taking care of yourself, again, whether you have something diagnosed or not, just taking care of your mental well-being, is that for your own self, or does that have a ripple effect and affect others as well?
Oh, definitely a ripple effect. If you live with somebody who's constantly grumpy and grouchy, how's that going to play out? You know, after a while, that gets really old. And so either you're going to start being like them, or you're going to find reasons to not be home, or you will go to your room. And if you have somebody who's depressed or somebody who's anxious, it's really hard to deal with the depression. And how do you get them? I mean, you can't talk them out of it.
Yeah.
And again, that requires somebody who can help them get out of that and, you know, and help them get better. And I think, you know, anxiety and depression tend to go hand in hand. You know, you're depressed because you're anxious, and you're anxious because you're depressed. And so usually if you have one, you're probably going to see a little bit of the other. It's not unusual.
Right, yeah.
So you've got that comorbid thing going on.
One book that I often recommend to people who might have somebody that like a spouse or somebody else that they're close with who is struggling with depression. There's a book called, it's just point blank, it's called When Someone You Love Is Depressed. And that is an excellent book that really gives a perspective of this might be what's going on in their mindset, and it's not you. It's just their mind just can't, they can't fully process so like to get out of those emotions. And this is how you can help them, but also help yourself not feel like you're at fault.
Right, and so many times they do. They blame themselves. What have I done? Why are you upset? Why are you sad? Have I done something? Because that's our normal response. If somebody's not behaving the way they normally do, then we think we've done something. Or the kids think they've done something. That's the other thing, and I think this is extremely important, and that is that you have your date nights. Because date nights are important, because we get caught up in life and all the things that happen, car issues, kid issues, you know, just parent issues, whatever, and we lose track of the couple. We lose track of how we were when we were dating. And I think, you know, you need to have a date night, and you need to be like you were when you were dating. Hold her hand, you know, look her in the eyes, talk to her at the dinner table. Don't sit and look around the room at what the other couples are doing. And that happens. I mean, it does. And just make it a date night, and, you know, open the car door for her. And all the stuff that you did when you were dating, you know, tell her how nice she looks, or you like her hair that way, or, you know, don't over compliment her. Don't, you know, it needs to be sincere, but make her feel special again. Just a special time, you know. And ideally, it would be if you could do it once a week, but that's pushing it. But at least once a month. At least once a month, have a date night.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there other trends of counseling advice that you often give to people that you just kind of think like are just almost universal that everybody should hear?
Take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of everybody else. Because if you're falling apart, you can't help them. not just physically, but emotionally as well.
Mhm.
And so if you need to go and sit for 10 minutes and just sit and look out the window or whatever, if that's what helps get you through the day, then that's what you need to do, and you need to make time for that.
Mhm.
We can all eke out 10 or 15 minutes a day.
Yep.
That's just a given, we can. And that's what we need to do. You know, if you need to put a reminder, a little post-it on your mirror, on your desk, or wherever, I need to do this, it's time for me to pray, it's time for me to, you know, whatever you've chosen to do. And it doesn't have to be the same thing,
Mhm.
you know? I try really hard, I did, and I haven't done it for a while now, but I would set aside a certain amount of time every day to read, because I love to read, but I don't really have much time to do it anymore. And so I would set aside 15 minutes every day, and I did really well for a while. And now I've
That's
fallen
good.
off.
That's good.
And I'm not reading much. So we need to do that.
Well, thank you so much for sitting with me, and Cheryl, I really appreciate you and the work that you do here at the church, but also just the work that you do and just caring for others and constantly just thinking of others' needs above yourself and helping people in that self-care.
Well,
So
thank you. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate you asking me, and
Yeah.
I enjoy doing all that I can do to help. So this has been fun.
Yeah, that has been. So, well, thank you.
You're
So-
welcome.